You flip a light switch, the electricity arrives instantly. You don't think about it. You've been conditioned not to. You step onto a train. You board with dozens of strangers. The conductor knows where the other trains are. There's a system, a communication infrastructure, holding it all together. You assume it's always been there. You check a traffic signal. It changes when it should. You wait. It works. You move. You check your phone's location. GPS, satellites, networks, all of it built on principles of electrical transmission and synchronized communication that most people couldn't explain if asked. But here's what gets erased. Modern electrical communication, especially the railway signaling and communication systems that literally moved America into the industrial era, did not evolve in a vacuum of white genius and corporate inevitability. And the man who transformed it, the one who made reliable electrical communication over distance and motion possible, was systematically written out of the blueprint. His name was Granville T. Woods. And when he got in the way, corporations didn't just compete with him. They fought him, sued him, tried to claim his work as their own, minimized his name until it became a ghost in the machinery. This is Black Antiquity. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's set the scene. Granville Taylor Woods was born in 1856 in Columbus, Ohio. That's not incidental to his story. It's foundational. 1 year before the Dred Scott decision, in which declared that black people had no rights a white person was bound to respect. 5 years before the Civil War. 6 years after the Fugitive Slave Act made it a federal crime to help an enslaved person escape. This is the world he entered. Now, his family wasn't enslaved, but that didn't mean doors were open. It meant doors were locked, and you either kicked them down or you didn't access what was inside. Woods received little formal education, not because he lacked intelligence. That myth gets applied to black people constantly, and it's worth rejecting immediately. He lacked education because access was systematically restricted. Schools in Ohio didn't educate black children equally. Apprenticeships weren't available. Formal pathways into skilled trades had racial gatekeepers, so he taught himself. Mechanical engineering, electrical systems, telegraphy, the mathematics that underpin circuit design. He read everything he could access. He studied machines. He observed systems. He reverse engineered designs. This is what self-taught genius looks like when the institution refuses to teach you. You become obsessive about learning anyway. By his teens, he was working in machine shops, learning by doing, absorbing the practical mechanics that textbooks might have taught him in another world. By his 20s, he was a railroad engineer, a role that required serious technical knowledge and judgment. Think about what that means. A black man operating locomotives and understanding railway infrastructure in the post-Reconstruction era. That required not just competence. It required being undeniably, aggressively competent. You don't get that job on potential or promise. You get it because you're better than the alternative. And what he observed from inside the railroad system was chaos, collisions, trains running into each other because the crew of one didn't know where the other was, signal failures, communication delays, operators trying to coordinate movement across vast distances using antiquated telegraph systems that couldn't keep pace with how fast things were moving. People died in these collisions regularly. The system was dangerous, inefficient, broken. Woods saw it all. The mechanical failures, the communication gaps, the cascading problems, and his mind wouldn't stop working on solutions, because that's what geniuses do. Inefficiency bothers them. Broken systems aggravate them. They see a problem and they can't rest until they've solved it. That instinct was about to change everything. Fast forward to the 1880s. Trains were getting faster, more frequent, more crowded. But the communication infrastructure hadn't caught up. and this gap was lethal. A train leaving a station had no reliable way to communicate with trains ahead of it on the same track. Dispatchers at stations couldn't instantly reach moving trains with warnings. If a signal failed, or if information was delayed, or if a conductor misread instructions, trains collided. It happened regularly enough that people had stopped being shocked by it. This was just the cost of industrial transportation. Granville Woods looked at this problem differently. Most people saw a communication problem. Woods saw a systems problem. The existing telegraph technology was designed for stationary points, telegraph offices, stations, fixed locations. But trains move. They're in motion constantly. You can't string telegraph wires that travel with the train. So how do you transmit information between a moving train and a stationary station? Between two moving trains? How do you do it reliably? How do you do it fast enough that it actually prevents collisions? This is where Woods' innovation entered. He developed what became known as the synchronous multiplex railway telegraph. Let me break down what that actually means, because this is infrastructure level innovation, and you need to understand why it mattered. Multiplex means multiple messages simultaneously. Before Woods, telegraph systems could send one message at a time. Limited bandwidth, limited information flow. Woods' system allowed multiple signals to be transmitted simultaneously over the same wire, multiplying the information capacity without multiplying the infrastructure. Synchronous means timed, coordinated. Not random pulses, but synchronized pulses that could be read and understood by receivers at both ends, even if they were moving relative to each other. Railway telegraph means it was designed specifically for the constraints of moving trains. What did this actually do? It allowed trains to communicate with stations while in motion. That's revolutionary. It allowed trains to communicate with other trains while in motion. Dispatchers could send real-time signals to moving trains. Conductors could report their position, their status, their speed. Other trains on the track ahead could be warned of approaching traffic. Information that previously took hours to transmit. Delayed messages, outdated position reports, miscommunication could now be handled in real time. In an era when the fastest communication available was the telegraph, Woods created a system that let moving trains transmit information in real time. That's not an incremental improvement. That's a categorical shift. The death rate from railway collisions dropped measurably. The efficiency of railway operations improved dramatically. Schedules became reliable. Cargo moved faster. Passenger safety increased. The economic impact was enormous, but the structural impact was even bigger. Woods' system became the foundation for modern railway communication networks. The principles he established: synchronized transmission, multiplex signaling, real-time coordination across distance, became the architecture for electrical communication systems far beyond railways. Urban transit, electrical distribution networks, power management systems, signal coordination. Everything that makes modern infrastructure possible traces back to the principles Woods established. And when major corporations realized what he had created, they understood immediately. This man held patents on the future of electrical communication. Here's the thing about Thomas Edison that doesn't get centered enough in how we teach history. Edison was brilliant, but Edison was also a businessman, and a ruthless one. He understood that controlling the narrative about invention was as valuable as controlling the patents. When you research 19th century electrical innovation, one name dominates the textbooks like a gravitational center: Thomas Edison, the Wizard of Menlo Park, the man who invented the practical incandescent light bulb, the man who gave America electricity. That narrative is incomplete. Edison was a talented inventor and an excellent engineer, but he was also running a company, General Electric Company, and that company had a business model. He needed to own the electrical innovation space. Not just the innovations themselves, but the public understanding of who the innovators were. Granville Woods. Woods was creating patents in railway signaling and electrical transmission that didn't fit Edison's narrative. Woods was selling his innovations to Westinghouse, Edison's main competitor. Woods was building the electrical future in ways Edison didn't control. So Edison sued him. Not hypothetically, not once or twice, multiple times. Edison filed lawsuits claiming that Woods had stolen his designs, infringed on his patents, copied his work. Why? Because Woods' patents were powerful. Because Woods was establishing himself as an independent inventor and engineer. Because corporate dominance, then as now, requires ownership of narrative. Woods had to defend himself in court, repeatedly, with limited resources, against a corporation with essentially unlimited legal firepower. And here's where it gets interesting. He won. The courts found that Woods' innovations were his own. His patents were legitimate. Edison's claims didn't hold up. Case after case, Woods' work was validated. But then, and this is worth examining closely, Edison offered Woods a job. Come work for me. Join General Electric. Let your talent serve my vision. It was a carrot after the stick, an invitation into the system. Join the corporate structure. Let your work be credited to the Edison brand. Participate in the hierarchy rather than threatening it. Woods refused. Let that detail sit. A black inventor in the 1880s. In an era of extreme racial restriction, systemic segregation, limited economic opportunity, refused to work under Thomas Edison, refused to join the most powerful electrical company in America, chose to remain independent. That's not just bold. That's almost incomprehensible in the context of the time. It meant he would face more legal battles, more financial pressure, more corporate resistance. It meant he wouldn't benefit from General Electric's resources or reputation. It meant he would remain a threat to the dominant narrative rather than being absorbed into it. But Woods valued his independence more than he valued Edison's offer. That tells you something about his character. Granville Woods held over 60 patents: electrical transmission, railway signaling, induction telegraph systems, power distribution. His innovations were purchased by General Electric, Westinghouse, major rail companies. He helped modernize electric railways, streetcars, urban transit systems. Yet today, he is not mentioned alongside Edison or Tesla in mainstream education. Why? Because industrial history prefers clean hierarchies, and black genius disrupts that hierarchy. Woods didn't fit the myth of the lone white inventor lighting the world, so the myth remained, and his name faded. This is the pattern: invent, patent, litigate, sell, be minimized. Corporations profit, textbooks simplify, narratives consolidate. Erasure doesn't require burning records. It requires omission. When schools teach electricity, they rarely teach Woods. When documentaries discuss industrial America, his name is a footnote, if present at all. But trains still run on principles he advanced. Signal systems still reflect his architecture. Urban electric infrastructure still carries his fingerprints. You live inside systems he helped stabilize, without knowing. Granville T. Woods was called the Black Edison. But here's the truth. He didn't need comparison. He stood alone. Engineer, inventor, industrial strategist. And like many black innovators of his era, he was not destroyed. He was diluted. But diluted doesn't mean erased forever, because infrastructure remembers, even when textbooks don't. Granville T. Woods, the man who helped electrify modern transit. Black Antiquity, where black legends are remembered. Like, share, and subscribe for more.